Hey guys, Bobby Sapphire here, Tournament Prep Tier. We're going to do a different kind of segment today, which is a deck breakdown. I haven't done anything like this for a while or ever, but there's a lot of hype coming out of I think it was Australian regional that went on, and Yoda Lando came in second, losing in the finals to quote-unquote God rolls. But I think that was probably a deck building error because there's very little mitigation here. So this is by a dude named Timelapse, and we can kind of go through what this deck is going on. So it's 29 points, so it gets to start Espionage. So it starts with a mill card off the top. It also mills yourself, but as long as you don't mill one of those rebels, I think you'll be pretty good. That would probably be the saddest card that you could possibly mill, and then if you happen to have it in your opening hand, it basically allows you to have played a six card hand, or have a draw card effect. So Lando is a profitable connection on a stick. You start the game with one additional resource. What's interesting about Lando is he's one of the few hero cards with a 2 discard side, even though it costs 1. And he has a 3 resource side for 1, so he's a +2 resource side, which is pretty sweet, especially when combined with Yoda, who has a 2 focus, as well as that special of his that lets you gain a resource and turn a die. That's excellent because of those 2 pay sides that we just mentioned. And then obviously you can also get a shield, which is, +1 health, and mill off the top of the deck, which this deck struggles to do, so that's pretty important. Because of that, this opponent is playing Command Center, and as he says here, I think he says it here, they never pick my location, making this one of the best mill upgrades ever. He's talking about Ascension Gun, which we'll get to. Yeah, because he has this ability to essentially always start with the shields, milling with Yoda will be super important, and probably getting that Ascension Gun, which lets you use the ability of the battlefield that's not being used, which, ideally is the command center, so you can special chain that with Yoda. For the Ascension Gun, we also have Hyperspace Jump to switch the battlefield when necessary. So going through the upgrade package, he has Illusion, which is a mainstay, Meditation, which is one of the best upgrades ever, let alone just for mill. Special, discard the top 2 cards of a deck. Force speed, I assume he does this so that he can claim quicker. So when Yoda is showing a special and force speed's on a special, it lets you take the 2 actions and use Yoda's ability to focus. And then let's say we turn it to the Lando 2 discard side. So the first action of force speed would be after we turn that die to resolve the 2 and then claim. So it seems like a pretty nice chain for that. He's only got 1 Lone Operative, which is another great card late. It also has a 2 discard side and then can heal 2 or 3 damage, depending on if there's 1 guy left or not. Master's Goggles, which is focus and resource, which is amazing, as well as the special chaining ability to take a card from their hand, any event. And then he's got 2 Second Chance, which I find interesting. But I just find it hard to believe that they're going to go after Lando first, so I think this card loses some value. If you draw it early, you're going to have to pitch it. Force Meditation has to go on Yoda, so I don't love Second Chance, but we'll talk about that in a second, because I'm going to do something interesting. So 2 Strength through Weakness. Again, this deck is going to have some issues discarding the cards off the deck, so discard the top 4. Sound the Alarm is good because it basically pitches a card from their hand like they have to reroll. Rebel, as we said, lets you play a card. Mislead. So here we get into the mitigation package. He's got Mislead, Create Dragon Howl, which is optional. They can always choose to mill, which some people will, and Easy Pickings. And then the Jump, if you're able to get ahead. But right now, the meta is, it can skew aggro. So, yeah, it's not often going to be mitigation. And then Caution is a soft mitigation. My issue with Caution in Yoda decks is that you just never want to take one of these dice away because they're so good. And Lando's die is pretty fantastic, and because this deck doesn't have a lot of dice, only has 8 upgrade dice, you're going to have to you're going to have to be chaining these dice to Lando's dice for these big swings of 2 discards. So I just don't love the Caution here. And then the All In is what I really don't understand. because I think, it's my understanding or my contention that if you're going to use Yoda and one other character and you don't have a ton of different sides we're switching to, that I just would rather play Impulsive because it's free and it still will let you resolve one of these dice into like some sweet Lando dice or get, and you a lot of times you can be special chaining already. So to pay one for that effect is kind of weak. So one of the things that I want to do, and one of the reasons why I thought I'd be good at evaluating this deck is because I played a deck called Heartwarmers quite a bit. Thought about it for the New Jersey Regional. Just didn't think it was ready. So I kind of want to talk about some of the things that I find similar and different here between my version of Heartwarmers and this Yoda Lando. For one, they have the benefit of espionage, and I have to pay 3 squad points to get the extra resource, where Lando comes with it. And Lando also has 1 extra health, which is pretty excellent. So one of the reasons, even beyond Profitable Connection, that makes Heartwarmers amazing to me is this little ditty right here. Double dealing plus scrap heap. Double dealing, if after one of your dice rolls especially, you may exhaust the support to gain 1 resource. This in our opening hand with Yoda, who has 2. Padme, who has 2. So each of these are 50%. So it gives us 75% chance to start with a resource, and that's not taking into account Force Heal, which has 2. Force Meditation. Lone Operative has 2. And Goggles has 1. So I like Force Heal here just as a lot of times you play Meditation, you mill, like this deck specifically mills them fast, right? Because Padme mills, Yoda mills, and Meditation mills. And then you're stuck with this thing that doesn't do a lot. So I like Heal and Lone Operative to sort of, overwrite the Meditation and get into full heal mode, like to tank up mode. He's a little lighter on things to heal. Like he because he's on command center, because he doesn't have the ability to mill from deck, he's gonna run things like Ascension Gun, and strength and multiple strength through weakness to mill off the top of the deck. The next thing I want to point out is that over the cautions, I rock the Jedi robes because having these in your opening hand and then overwriting it. Plus, this thing has 2 focus sides, which is excellent for Padme or Yoda. Like instead of pitching to reroll important cards, you just use that Jedi robe focus to put your Yoda on the die that you want. And then obviously it's +2 health when it's in your opening hand. And I don't use Force Speed in this version because it's basically all special chaining. You don't have to take steps to resolve your dice only late in the game when you're trying to strip your hand, because this deck has the opposite problem. It mills from your hand, mills from your deck really, really, really well and really quickly, super aggressively, but then capitalizes on the fact that all 4 of your character dice have discard sides. Lone Operative with the 2 discard side. Allows, and then we have Friends in Low Places here as well, which is an interesting exclude. Friends in Low Places, you would think in a mill deck would be pretty important because it takes a card right from their hand. It shows you what you're working with, how the turn is going to progress and whatnot. And he doesn't have these here mainly because his deck already hits the hand so well, and that's mainly what he's going to be doing. The one thing I will say is that I feel that my mitigation package is a lot more intense. So I have the same 2 easy pickings. I have the same 2 hyperspace jump. I don't have misleads, and I don't have the crate Dragon House just because of that optional part. And again, I think this deck makes more money, but that Lando +2 resource side here is also very interesting, and I'm very curious to see how well that makes money. But I have Entangle and 2 Mind Trick, and I just find because the way people have to play against Mill is to as few rerolls as possible, right? And maybe this just is a testament to the strategy behind having the Lando Yoda deck, which continually hits the hand, is that your opponent is going to reroll less, but all the more reason for them to have all their dice in the pool before they do start rerolling, which makes Mind Trick a huge blowout. And I also think I can't think of a reason not to play at least 1 Overconfidence, if not 2. And then because of the special chaining, my Heartwarmers deck played a Hasty Exit. I don't know if I would keep that in the current meta, but it's insane against vehicles. This deck, the Yoda Lando deck, not nearly as fast, so I can understand why the hasty isn't there. But I do have quite a bit more mitigation that is more high impact, with things like Overconfidence giving us a reroll and a removal, and Tangle removing 2, Mind Trick usually removing 2 plus. And then the Hidden Motive, which is another one that I'm shocked that he doesn't have. He has the Soundlight Alarm over the Hidden Motive in that free slot. But Hidden Motive, like obviously Soundlight Alarm hits more dice, which is fantastic. Hidden Motive often gives us a 50-50 just to remove, and then like the downside is that if we miss, they have to reroll, right? Because we call damage. Whereas with Sound the Alarm, they could just reroll into damage, and there's that potential to get blown out. Hidden Motive doesn't really have that potential, because if we name their damage side, they don't hit it, they've got to reroll, so we just discarded a card. So that feels pretty good. All in all, the strategies seem similar, only figuring out the pacing for Yoda Lando is going to be pretty important. One of the reasons why I'm a little skeptical of the Friends in Low Places being absent is because if you're relying on your Ascension gun to mill, you might. That's like the Ascension gun die is worth 2 cards, so mitigating it actually saves opponents a card, which is fairly interesting in terms of like their decisions they have to make. I just think this has a lot of room to add more mitigation and get. And like I'm gonna say that the Ascension Gun Command Center combo is probably important, but without trying it and seeing how effective it really is, I guess I'm just gonna reserve judgment there. So pros and cons versus these two lists. I think Yoda Padme is faster. I think that double dealing and scrap heap allow you to make a lot more money. I think this could be fixed, but I think I like the mitigation package over here a little bit more. I'm not a big fan of the caution in a deck like this, where it's pretty easy to resolve the sides you want. Like Yoda being that character who, there's really not a side that you're only really re-rolling the disrupt and the shield, and because Yoda's you could just roll a focus or special with Yoda's other die. As long as you hit on one of the dice, you're gonna be pretty okay. I guess I can see the all-in play where you like Yoda, a special into a 2 focus into like a double discard. Like 2 double discards, so discard 4, and that can be pretty huge. But you gotta have a lot of money for that, and he skewed high on the resource cost sides of some of these cards. And without the extra money making, and I don't know how often you're actually going to want to resolve that 3-for-1 resource on Lando. The other thing is that in this deck, you're clearly putting things on Yoda. And in this one, I think in both of these, Force Meditation is really, really important, and Force Speed. So you're loading up Yoda, but then you have the second chance. So you have to have money to do both. And one of the things that I like about second chance is overwriting into it. It's like one of Sabine's great tricks. It's one of the reasons why I didn't like Zeb Ray, because you're building out Ray, and then you have to find 3 resources miracle to put a second chance on Zeb. Whereas second chance works a lot better if you're overwriting. So anyway, those are my thoughts. It's just thought process there. Obviously, different battlefield, because this deck mills so well off the top. It needs help with the hand and finishing off. One thing that I don't know if I've just not edited this deck since Determination really hit the scene, but there's no Determinations in here, which seems crazy because Padme has the 2 focus sides, Robes has the 2 1 focus sides, and the mask goggles. So I think if I were to reevaluate, Determination needs to go in here. I'm not sure where, because it's pretty tight. But anyway, this video isn't meant to be about heartwarmers, so let me take a look and show you what I did with my Lando Yoda. So I copied this one again. I left the gun in Command Center combo because I wanted it to be, I want to test it, but I swapped my cautions are out and Robes are in. I did cut a 4 speed. I do like the ability to Yoda a special with a 4 speed into the Lando discard into claim. So I still want to test that a little bit, but I find that I just in decks where I'm not like swiftness altering, things like that, that force speed loses a lot of power. I'm not a huge fan of force speed, never have been. I stick with the one lone operative. I really would like to get the two, and my gut tells me I'm going to cut an ascension gun for the second lone operative, but for now we'll just leave it. And then I cut a second chance only because I can't imagine a world in which my opponent is going after Lando first. Yoda's going to have a much easier time of carrying the game late, especially like if they take Lando out early, you can get a force meditation and really catch up. So I went down to one strength through weakness here, mainly because I think it's a great rebel target. Mitigation, an amazing rebel target, but also like strength through weakness, just being able to get that back is really huge. And I think that the inevitability with Ascension Gun for Command Center and Jump for Command Center is and Yoda's die is going to make things much easier to mill. Sticking with like mill options, I do have the determination in here. Resolve one of your dice as if it's showing a different symbol. So oftentimes we can use the Yoda to focus, so say Lando's die is on one focus and that 3 resource for one. So we can now for 1 resource mill 3 cards out of their hands, or we can put 3 shields on somebody. That seems really strong. Determination, just a really good card. So up the mitigation quite a bit here. 2 easy pickings is the same. 2 entangle, 2 hidden motive, the 2 jump. I kept 1 crate, 2 mind trick, 2 overconfidence, and then rebel to get any of those back. This is the kind of mitigation package I would want in that Lando Yoda deck. One of the reasons why there's a lot more room for mitigation from, say, like the Yoda Padme is because we no longer have to run this like 3 card package of double dealing scrap heap, which is really great. But at the same time, that's deck slots that could be used for mitigation. So we've got a ton of mitigation here. We have 1 more upgrade. We have 9 dice cards as opposed to 8. That's because the robe swap for caution, which I just like a little bit better. It's another card to overwrite meditation with once their deck is milled. There's just it's just such a utilitous card. And those focuses are great with determination and also just perfect for, this is a perfect upgrade to put on Lando early if you're doing something like if you think they're going to go after Yoda, or you have like some other trick up your sleeve. It just makes him a little bit more potent if Yoda dies, or if you're trying to bait them into going after Lando, which you can then overwrite with the second chance. One thing I did do was I kept the friends in low places out. I didn't add those. I would like to see how it runs without it, and just going with this like heavy mitigation package with just 1 strength and 2 determination for non-mitigation events. So I'll probably do some videos with this version right here, just to give it a try, and mainly see how the Ascension Gun Command Center is working with Lando and Espionage, and see if this mitigation helps with some of the problem aggressive decks. But I think it's a really cool deck. I know Lando is a card that I don't own because I just completely wrote him off. I think it's also kind of interesting that you can go 1 die Lando, 1 die Yoda, 1 die Ezra, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. 4 dice is still where I prefer to be, obviously. But it doesn't feel great that Lando has that 1 gun side, although in a mill mirror against like Yoda Riken, if this can hang with that, don't sleep on that 1 damage or the damage from that in Ascension Gun to win the tiebreaker, which is a sneaky thing we can do. But I almost played blue-red mill at Worlds, but as good as 3PO is, and as good as like emergency evacuation is, which are some of the blowout cards. This is why I like Mind Trick so much, is because those cards are just such big blowouts. I'm very intrigued by the 21 health, which the Riken Yoda has as well. But that 2 discard side is very tempting. It's one of the few heroes have to resolve in all of their cards. So Yeah, we'll give it a shot and we'll see. But those are my thoughts and feelings on the deck, and I'll try and get some games with it this weekend. All right, later, guys.